Hey guys, welcome back to Pitt-Side Garage. Today I am getting the rod bearing clearances measured for the 528 big block Mopar that I'm building for the Challenger. And we're going to use a micrometer to mic the outside diameter of the crankshaft rod journals. And then we're going to use a dial bore gauge to check the inside diameter of our connecting rods with the bearings in place. We'll do this and it'll tell us exactly what our bearing clearances are. So, let's get started. We got our Ohio crankshaft, 618 inch rods, extreme I-beams, Chevy rod end. This is a connecting rod vise. You don't have to have one of these to do this kind of work. I've done plenty of stuff just using a vise. Put some little rubber feetsies in there, protect your rod, or you can double up a towel, cinch it down in there so that it doesn't mark up your rod, and you can torque your rod bolts and untorque your rod bolts, stuff like that, using that method. You don't have to have all these fancy tools. There's ways to get around all this stuff so that you can work on your own stuff without breaking the bank. I know it's one of the main reasons you want to work on your own stuff is to save the money. I figure I've paid people to put together stuff that instantly tore up, and then I've tore up stuff that I put together. So the moral of the story is I learned a lot more when I put it together wrong and tore up stuff than paying somebody to do that for me. Because then I'm out twice. I didn't gain any knowledge, and I spent the money anyways. So I like doing this stuff myself. These little rod vices are handy. I just got this thing. Like I said, I've been putting together these engines for a long time without never had one. This is way easier. I think they're pretty cheap too. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them from Summit. Not bad at all. Got our rod bearing here. Going to clean up both ends. Make sure there's no dust in between the surfaces that'll throw off our readings. I don't like to get my fingerprints on the bearing surface if I don't have to. Oils from my skin staying on there for long periods of time. I'm not a big fan of that. Now this is a Clevite CB 743HN bearing. They do have an upper and lower. Remember, the upper goes on the rod. I know I can get backwards when you're doing this stuff in the engine. You know, you have the block turned upside down, putting your rods together. You think, well, that's the upper, right? It's facing up, but it's really the cap. When you rotate it back over, you know, it's backwards. It's easy for me to remember that way. It is. You need to be able to do things correctly no matter how you remember them. So it's the way I remember it. Ohio crankshaft and ARP rod bolts here. There's 7/16 rod bolts, ARP 2000 bolts. Ohio crankshaft says the torque is 72 foot-pounds. I've always used a torque method. I've done the stretch once or twice. I've never seen the benefit to the torque method. I mean, as long as, or the stretch method, I've always just torqued everything. Everything's always been fine. Always lived. I think as long as you have a good torque wrench. I believe I verified my torque wrench to the stretch method the first time I did it, and it was right on. So I mean, it's Once you're comfortable with doing things and you lube your bolts the right way and everything else, I mean, it's a pretty proven method. I recommend 72 foot-pound or 6,000 stretch. Good little 72 foot-pounder. Nice and easy. All right. Set this rod up in here so that we can measure the inside diameter, our dowel bore gauge. First, we have to get the outside diameter of our crankshaft. Let's go grab that big old dude. Okay. While I have this up here, I'm going to go ahead and measure all my rod journals and all my main journals. Make sure they're all together and tight. Make sure they all measure the same. If there's a high or a low, I can remember that when I'm measuring my rods. If I get a high or low reading, I can match up the high and the low on the crank and the rod. Like I said, this is a 220 rod journal, Big Block Chevrolet rod journal size. You guys have never used a micrometer before, they can be a little confusing at first. It's got this little torque knob here on the end so you don't over torque it, get it too tight. You can lock it in place, get the reading on it. I'll see, since this is a 220 rod journal, it'll be under 220. So the way you have to look at it is this is a 2 to 3 inch micrometer. So it's at the 2 and the 20, and then it's actually inside of the 20. So then you'll have to roll it over and see where it lines up. And here it lines up on the 3. So what you'll do is you'll subtract the 3 by 220. So it's a 2.197. So it's, of course, it's under 220, which is good because it's for bearing clearance. So now that we've done that, I got this other little vise over here on my roll around that doesn't roll around all that great. Roll, fool! Dang, people are watching, embarrassing me in front of my friends. Okay, I'll put this in the vise. Let me get my dowel bore gauge. All right, dowel bore gauge. It comes with a lot of little inserts. This is for a 220. Just insert that. Nino. Let's see, you want to have this facing up. This is going to go into the rod end. Okay, I'm going to set this up, zero out the dowel to 0 on the crank. And when it goes into the rod, it'll show you how much clearance you have, which would be your crank clearance to your rod journal clearance. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. These are 2 tiny little surfaces. And then you're gonna try to freaking set up here. Okay, we're at 0 there. All right. Just put this dude in here. Try to get it nice and straight. Like that. That's less than 2,000, so I don't like that at all. Don't like that at all. Re-verify this. Let me show you what I'm looking at here. Okay. Dial bore gauge going on the rod end here. Shows 2 thou clearance. 25. 10 thou. I like my clearances on the tighter or on the looser side. Like 25 to 3 on my rods and 3 to 35 on my mains. Just my preference. I like those two surfaces to be away from each other. That way oil can get in and out of there real nice and easy. So we do that. We check all our measurements on our rods, write them all down. If there's any variance, hopefully they're all the same. Go back over there with a micrometer. We can pull that micrometer back out. Check all the rods. Put all the bearings in the rods. Check them all. And if we have one reading across every rod journal, we can just keep our dial bore gauge the same. And then just check every rod to that dial bore gauge, and it'll show you every clearance. So let's keep checking. Okay, moving on to the mains. Bearings in, make sure the holes go over the oil holes for sure. That should go without saying, but I know some of you guys are new, so it's all good. Center cap on the Dodge is the thrust. So what we're going to do is we're going to get all the tops in here, get them all on, get them torqued down, torque to spec. No oil on the bearings, so we can get our clearances. All the mains on the crank is put up again. All the mains measured the same. So I got my measurement locked in here. So I'll change over my dial bore gauge to a 280, 275, whichever one I have in there that works. Let's see. Got a 280, that right there, we'll use that. Then we'll be able to come in here and verify what our oil clearances are for our mains. A little tip, if you guys ever have your stuff line honed, not all the machine shops do it, but you need to go in here and make sure that these don't have any burrs on them from being machined top and bottom. This will mess with your clearances as well, as your caps won't fit flush, and then your bearings won't fit flush, so it'll give you all kinds of weird readings. So you can go in there with a little piece of Scotch-Brite, a little piece of sandpaper, file, something like that, clean them up. So let me get all the main caps on here and we'll keep rolling. All right, let's see what we got. We got to make sure it's a full groove mains. We got to make sure we stay out of the groove. It's easier said than done with one hand on this thing, one hand holding the camera. That's right where I want it. 3.5 to 4. Just gonna take my word for it, I guess. That's perfect. We're going down the line. We'll check all these. Pop this thing through here. Get to this next one. Look at that. I like that. That makes me happy. I like that clearance a lot. If I can get this one from the back here or not. Nope, doesn't look like it. So I'm probably gonna have to do, because this thing isn't all that long, is probably gonna have to work backwards. And I think if I get this thing through here. There we go. Trying to make sure that the dial indicator doesn't move off of its preset 0. There's a thrust bearing. All right there. Nice. So yeah, so this is the easiest way and most accurate way to check your clearances. Yes, you can use plastic gauge. Yes, you can get your machine shop to do it for you. But if you want to know for sure what your clearances are, how they look, bearing companies make thou over, thou under bearings. If you want more clearance or less clearance, you can also have your cranks polished. That'll give you a little bit extra. You can have them turned if they're damaged, of course. But this is the best way to know for sure what your clearances are. Plastic gauge, people have used for a long time. They swear by it. It works, apparently. But if you want to know numbers, this is how you get it. Okay? This stuff isn't all that expensive. This is a Fowler gauge. I mean, like I said, you can do this stuff easier. But if you want to do this stuff on your own, not have to pay somebody to do it, get your own numbers, have your own peace of mind, this is how you get your clearances. Everything's looking really good. The Molnar crank is dead on. All clearances are exactly the same. That's why I was able to lock this dowel bore gauge in and just check each bearing, because the crank, every journal measured exactly the same. So I'm feeling good about this. I like all my clearances. I wish I had just a smidge more on my rods, but they'll be fine. They'll live. I got to get all my hardware in, but I'm just going to call this part 1. Yeah, so like I was saying, I'm just going to call this part 1. of the 528 build, getting our clearances together. I'll come in next time and we'll start putting the hardware in. Got cam bearings I need to install and show you how to do those. We'll get the I don't know why I can't think of it, rear main seal. Long day. I already went to work today. This is rolling around 5 o'clock in the afternoon after a full day of work. We'll get the, geez, I lost it again. What a moron, idiot. Rear main seal. I usually use a fast, it's a, the guy sold it. It's a one piece that you slit down the middle and then you fold it over the crank and then you install it all in one piece. They're really nice, but I didn't do that this time. I just got a racing Fel-Pro seal. But show you guys how to do that with the rear main seal retainer. Probably get the crank in, and then we'll start putting rods on pistons, and we'll start cutting piston rings, and slowly but surely we're gonna get there. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you learned some stuff. Yeah, we'll continue on, and thanks for joining me, and I'll see you guys on the Pitt-Side. I don't know if I like that.